Hey there! Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the secret engine that pretty much powers the entire corporate world, automated decision-making. I mean, really think about that for a second. From figuring out employee bonuses to managing massive inventories, how does a huge company make all those little judgments, accurately and instantly every single day?
Well, the answer is way simpler than you'd think. It's not some ridiculously complex algorithm. Nope. It's one single fundamental line of logic that quietly runs the world of business.
And that brings us to the star of the show, the if formula. This is the simple little tool that turns really complicated questions into super straightforward automated answers.
So what is it exactly? At its heart, the IF formula just asks a simple yes or no question. It runs a test. If the answer is yes or true, it does one thing. If the answer is no or false, it does something else. That's literally it. So simple, right? To really let this sink in, let's use an example that everybody gets, school grades. We're going to use this simple if logic to figure out if a student passed or failed their exam. Okay, here's how it works. Step 1 is the test. Are the student's marks greater than or equal to 40? Step 2, if the answer is yes, the result is pass. And step 3, if the answer is no, the result is fail. That little 3-step process is the entire foundation for everything we're about to talk about. So now that we've got the basics down with our school example, let's take that exact same logic and see how it runs the professional world. This is where it gets really powerful. And this is the part you really need to get. That logic we just used for a student's grade, it is the very same logic used to calculate employee bonuses at a major corporation. The stakes are different, sure, but the core thinking is absolutely identical. Just look at this side-by-side comparison. It makes it so clear. On the left are student logic. On the right, corporate logic. The test just changes from marks greater than or equal to 40 to was the sales target achieved. And the outcome goes from pass/fail to bonus/no bonus. You see? The structure is exactly the same. And here's the magic. For a company with, say, 10,000 employees, this whole thing is completely automated. No one is sitting there with a calculator checking sales figures. The IF logic just does it all, instantly, for the entire company. Okay, so you've got the basic IF function. Awesome. But now let's get into the secret that separates the beginners from the real pros. This is how you take your logic to the next level. Because here's the deal. The top professionals, the ones building the dashboards that CEOs are looking at every morning, they don't just stop with a simple IF. They add another layer of intelligence to it. They bring in a couple of powerful friends, and or. And what these let you do is test for more than one condition at a time, which makes your automated decisions way smarter and a whole lot more nuanced. And this table shows it perfectly. Instead of just one test, we now have 2. To get the bonus, an employee's sales have to be over 50,000 and their attendance has to be perfect. Both conditions, not just one, but both have to be true. If even one of them is false, they don't get that bonus. And that right there, that's it. That is how the real-world performance dashboards you see in business meetings actually work behind the scenes. They're all built on this layered logic of IF and or to give a super clear, immediate picture of what's going on. All right, so we've gone from a super simple concept all the way to the logic-driving complex business tools. Now for the most important step, thinking about how you can actually use this. Because this is the real takeaway. When you truly master IF logic, you stop just doing tasks and you start designing systems. You're actually automating decisions. You're starting to think and act like a manager. So I'll leave you with one final question to think about. Whether it's for a personal budget spreadsheet or maybe a project at work, what's the very first decision you're going to automate?